Let's go.
Welcome to the Ride Home Review,
where we talk about the movie we just watched on our ride home.
Then we do our best to improve the movie by rewriting the story on the fly.
The hosts of the Ride Home Review are sci-fi fantasy author T.K. Thompson
and film pundit Dustin Thompson.
Spoiler alert! Alright everybody, this is your official warning. All of our reviews will be filled with spoilers of the movie. So if you have not seen this movie yet, please listen at your own risk.
Welcome to our next episode of the Ride Home Review. Today we are going to be talking about Deepwater Horizon. We just got home from watching it.
Oh yes we did, it was really good.
It's a dramatization of the April 2010 disaster when the offshore drilling rig Deepwater Horizon exploded and created the worst oil spill in U.S. history. Tell me, what did you think?
You're funny. You know what, guys? I really loved this movie. I loved this movie, but it's not one of those movies you want to watch over and over again. I felt there are very few movies throughout history where I feel like people need to see this movie. For instance, like, what was I saying earlier?
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List. Like, you have to see this movie. It talks about a time in our history. And there are a few war films that I felt like were like this. For example, Saving Private Ryan would definitely be one up there. And this movie is one of those movies where we did not get a glimpse on what really happened on the news.
Right.
Like, all we knew, there was a fire and there was an oil spill, you know? But, like, this movie really tells the story, and it was visceral, and I forgot I had M&Ms. That's how good the movie was. Like, I had my precious M&Ms right there next to me. I was eating them at first, and then all of a sudden, before I knew it, an hour had gone by because I was so, it took me away. Like, it was a really great movie. Anyways, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. When you first say love, I'm like, okay, how do you mean love this movie? Because, like you say, you think it's like a historical movie, like one that relates live events that kind of happened that are a little dramatized, right? But this was basically a memorial for the men and to see this horrific event. So to say love and then see this horrific event is kind of like, it was impactful. That's what we'll say.
It was a great film that it's disgusting that it happened.
Right.
So I can't love, it's not an entertaining film.
Right. Not like
this is not a film you go to be entertained. This is a film to go to really truly understand what happened to these men and women. There were a few women. And it was just so incredible, the storytelling. I mean, okay, so now if we move away from that fact that this was real history and real people died, the filmmaking was incredible. Yeah, it really was. Like, yeah, I was worried about how they were going to explain drilling to us, but they did a really great job.
Yeah, one thing is, it was almost like a war movie to me. Like, when everything starts exploding and you hear the bolts and shrapnel like flying, like you could see people cringing up in their seats because they're like, oh, it's gonna hit me. You know what I mean? So scary. And we were talking about how that is like your worst nightmare is to be stuck out in the middle of the ocean on something that's exploding.
Yeah, burning. I mean, it was like I was saying, like, I think the worst way to die would be burning to death, but for some reason I'm also scared of drowning. And then you got both of those situations happening at the same time. It was...
The only thing that I was like, oh, thank heavens, was when they depicted in there that here's this ship that's supposed to be waiting for this mud because they're supposed to be drilling, but The guy hasn't given the, okay, go ahead and drill, because all of these safety precautions have just been overlooked, and the rig is just in horrible disarray.
Right.
And, you know, they're getting pressure from the big guy saying, oh, let's just do this already. We're 40, 50 days off of our deadline. You know what I mean? And he's like, screw your deadline. But if that ship hadn't been there,
yeah,
who knows how many more casualties
died, yeah.
like there would have been here.
Right.
Like at the end, you were just like, oh, thank goodness that at least you skipped that step and called those people to come out and to be ready.
Right.
Otherwise, because those National Guard people were not able to get there in a quick manner whatsoever.
Right.
But yeah, it really did open your eyes to the experience of what some of these families had to go through, and not even receiving the information on their own loved ones. Just that, oh yeah, there's a fire. That's it.
And I have to go.
And I have
Sorry,
to go, and
sir.
I can't talk to you. Goodbye.
Yeah, it was.
But,
I can't imagine that phone call.
But you're right. Like the visual effect of this story was just impacted. Like you sat there and like you forgot that he had M&Ms in his hands, and we're all just sitting there gaping.
Right. In fact, I don't remember putting my hands on my face in many movies, and I found myself like covering my face.
I saw that.
Like
I saw you
was like, oh my
your
gosh,
face.
this is happening. Like it was so visceral, and just what happened to these men and women were just it was so hard to watch. But I think it was a really important movie to watch, because what these BP executives did, these company men who are all about meeting a timeline, and believe me, I'm a project manager, so I know what it means to meet a schedule and be behind, but like for them to just cancel tests altogether is ludicrous and disgusting when it comes down to an industry where safety is so important.
Right.
And honestly, I don't know how truthful everything that happened in this movie is.
Right.
But based on what I saw, I cannot believe that these men weren't fired. Like, you find out at the end of the movie they're still working for the oil company, and that men in high positions can make these decisions without consequences.
Well, yeah, it's just like the other movies about the market crash and the people's responsible and all these things. It all happens. No one gets touched, you know. Right. And we talked about, not that we're planning on this being like political or, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's the way things work. You know what I mean? It just and it's sad, and it's sickening, and you don't feel like you have any control over it whatsoever.
Right.
And the movie totally portrayed that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, so...
But Mark, though, the performances of the actors.
Oh,
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Incredible.
Oh, his breakdown scene in the
hotel.
In the hotel after it's all over, like...
was so beautifully acted and shot,
you felt it, like you wanted to be in that family hug circle. It was like, my heavens.
And I was really surprised with his daughter too, like the facial expression she was making. Like, guys, there are not so this is not gonna be an episode where we rewrite any story.
Right.
You can't rewrite a story that's a true story, and B, this movie's so perfect when it comes to telling this story. There's not much we could say that you would need to change, even when it comes down to the style of filmmaking, the cinematography, the editing, the pacing. Everything was so well done in this movie. The BP guy, John Malkovich.
Right.
He was such a great actor in this movie. Just so incredibly well done.
Yeah, I was surprised because at times I almost didn't even recognize him as his actor.
Right.
Because his performance was so different from things that I've ever seen before.
Right.
You know, the way that he talks, and it's usually kind of big and overly
stylistic.
You know what I mean?
You think of him in Red.
Right.
You know, right. Him being John Malkovich, but no, he really fell into this character.
Yeah.
And really played it really well.
He did play it really well.
Yeah. And I really bought this scene where he was trying to convince everybody that there wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I think that scene was so important for us as an audience to understand what type of pressure they were putting on all these other people to bypass their safety things. He made, like, that scene I think is so important because you could see why they decided to continue to drill.
He made an interesting argument to them. You know what I mean?
In the end, there were still so many controls and safety precautions that they just did not do.
Right.
The fact that they just canceled the test on the concrete should have been enough to say, no, we're not doing this. We're shutting down until you can test it. But it's just amazing to see that this is real life.
Right.
This is what happens in companies. And it's really sad that you can put all these measures and safety precautions in place, and you can have a guy where his sole responsibility is to tell you when it's safe to move forward or not. But if you override it, if there's a guy that can override it, then what's the point
of having that safety control guy besides it just being for show?
Right.
Right?
Right. It's to be compliant. It's to show in a law or the government that we're compliant, that we have this safety officer, but at the end of the day,
no one listens to the safety officer.
No one listens to the safety officer. So it's incredibly important for people to see this movie to realize that this is real life and this is what happens. If anything, so that way when you're in life, that you're just not a person who ignores what's happening around them.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say that it's anyone's fault that didn't speak up in this thing. It's a terrible tragedy, and those 11 men who lost their lives, it's just it was unnecessary, and anyways, it's hard to say anything else.
Right, I know. Oh my goodness.
Well, we recommend to go see the movie.
Yeah, go see the movie.
It's not going to be a movie you walk out with feel-good feelings.
Right.
And you're not going to have a brighter hope for the world that night.
No.
We walked around the store afterwards, and there was people there that we knew said that they were trying to wave us down and yell and wave hello, and we were just heads down, depressed after this movie.
Don't let that discourage you from going.
No, but it's a movie you have to see. I think this is a movie everyone needs to see.
Right.
And Mark Wahlberg has become such a really great actor, and I was really excited to see the trailer of the Boston Marathon bombing that he's in.
Yeah.
With the same director. The same director did this movie, is with that movie, so it gives me a lot of hope for that movie. And so, what would you give this star rating out of 5?
Well, I don't know, because it's hard, because I don't feel like I can rank it the way that I do other movies.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not comparing it to other movies the same way that I would.
Right. True story movies are very hard for me to give them. It's hard for me to give them a 5-star rating, but it's also hard for me to give them a lower rating based on what? Because it's a true story. You can't change anything about the story or character development in a movie like this. Well, I mean, it's important that we develop our characters. And I thought it was very important that they focused on Mark Wahlberg's character, and I thought it was genius how they described to the audience how oil rigging works through the story of a girl preparing to share with her class what her dad does for work. I thought that was just it's so incredibly creative on how they did that. It was to hear and be taught from a child on what really happens, because I won't lie to you, I thought they pumped oil out of the ocean. I had no idea that there's no pumping involved. It's actually trying to stop it from from ejecting out of the earth. So it was very, it's hard. I would say at least a 4.75 out of 5, if not a 5-star rated movie for me. It was a great movie. I don't have any complaints whatsoever. But usually a 5-star movie has a certain X factor, a certain something that you almost can't describe that brings it to almost a perfection type of thing. So yeah, 4.75 for me.
Yeah, it's in the forest for me too.
Yeah.
So
everyone go see this movie. Sorry that this episode we really didn't rewrite the movie to make it better whatsoever, but hey, we went and saw the film. We had it. I won't say we had a great time, but we really
enjoyed it.
We
learned.
I don't regret seeing the movie, and it was important. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was impactful. Yeah.
I'll make sure that my kids see this movie one day when they're age appropriate. So. Yeah. Anyways, guys, it was fun to have you guys listen to this episode. We got a lot more movies coming up here in the next 2 months because it is the fall season and Christmas season. We're planning to do some movies that aren't in theaters. So look forward to maybe a few Christmas movie episodes we're going to do, and maybe some other films that you definitely have all seen and you can enjoy the reviews. So more to come very soon. And we'll have a special announcement next week of maybe a guest coming onto the show. So stay tuned.
All right. See you later.
Bye.